Good morning, students. So, in the previous session, we were doing module 3. Under that, we were doing about pattern matching in regular expression. So, we'll move on with the next chapter. It is of module 3 itself, but the next chapter in your textbook, that is reading and writing files. Okay. So, okay. We have used variables, right? You have learned C, C++, all those things. So we are using the concept of variables. So variables you're using whenever you want to store some data when you're running your program. Now, you want your data to be present even after your program has finished. In that case, what you can do, you are going to save your particular file, right? So you can say your file is nothing but the contents of the file can be any string values whose size can go up to gigabytes of size. So in this particular chapter, what we are going to see here is we are going to see how we can use Python to create as well as read and save files in your hard drive. So that is what we are going to see in this particular module. So we'll move on with the first topic in this, that is file and file path. So the first topic here we are going to see is file as well as file path. So we all know what you mean by a file. File is nothing but in which you're going to have some data. It can be either text kind of file or a binary file, image file, any kind of file. Okay. So here, file when you say it is having two key properties. So the two key properties are, first of all, is nothing but the name of the file, that is file name, and the next property is the path. Okay, so file name we know, just take this example. So the name of this file is project, and followed by that you are writing dot, and after that whatever you have, that is a extension of that particular file. So this project is nothing but it is a word document, right? So that is your file name. And whereas path, so when you say path, path specifies the location of the file on your computer. Take the same example. So if you're saying the location of this particular file, project.docx, so what is the location of this particular file? That is in your C drive you have a folder called as user, and inside that you have one more folder called as figured, and inside that you have other folder called as document, within which you have this particular file called as project docx. Okay, so that is nothing but your path. So you can see here this uses, so it can this uses as figured as well as document, so these are called as folders, or you can also call them as directories. So these folders or directories, they can contain other folders. So example, you take users, when you say inside user you have one more folder called as figured. Similarly, inside this you have one more folder called as document, and this folder can also contain your document or your file. So in this case, this particular folder documents, it contain your file called as project docx. Okay. So one more point in this is, here you can see here C colon and you have written a backslash here. So that is, you're calling it as a root folder. Okay. So this is called as your root folder, or how we say, we call it as C drive also, right? So this is called as your root folder, and below this whatever you have, they are the subfolders that is present in this. Okay. So in Windows we write it this way, that is C colon followed by a backslash, or you can also call it as a C colon. You write it as C colon, which we call it as C drive. But whereas when you speak about Linux, so here in your textbook they have given the example. All the examples are related to your Windows operating system. Okay. So similarly, if you're going for Linux, then root folder will be a forward slash. Okay. Here it is a backward slash, but when you're saying a Linux, then it will be a forward slash. Other than this, we can also say, now take my example of my drive only. So here you can see I have C drive as well as D drive. Now if I am uh, trying to connect a pen drive, then I one more drive will be added here, one letter will be added here, right? So that you can call it as volumes. So here already you have new volume, that is D drive. Along with that, if you're trying to connect your pen drive, or that is a USB or your DVD drive, then an additional letter will be added there, that is you can call it as a new volume. Okay, it can be, now already I have C and D. Other than that, I it might be either E drive or F drive, like that. Okay, so that is nothing but the volumes that is added. The same thing if you're speaking about Linux, then in that case, it will be a forward slash followed by mount folder. Whereas here you can say it as volumes. Okay. So this is what you have to tell for files as well as file path. So the two key properties what you have to say is the file name followed by the path. File name, when you say, you will be having a name which will be a word, and after that you are writing a dot followed by the extension. Okay. So here this particular extension is dot doc. That is nothing but it is telling that it is a word document. Okay. Then other than that, you should tell about the root directory, which is in this case it is C colon. Same thing if you're followed by a backward slash. Same thing if you're speaking about Linux, then it will be a forward slash. Then you also need to tell that you can have folders as well as subfolders. Okay. So in the folders, again you can have folders or you can have some document also. When you consider users, this is a folder in which you're having subfolders. But same thing when you're considering documents folder, inside this you will be having the file that is project.docx. So this is how the path can be given in case of your Windows operating system. So C colon slash user slash asperger slash documents. So inside this you're going to have a file that is project.docx. Okay, so that is about your file and file path. Next we'll see about backslash on Windows and forward slash on OS X as well as Linux. So on Windows, paths are written using backslash. We already saw in the previous example that slash acts as a separator between the folder names. Similarly, if you are speaking about OS X as well as Linux, in this case, instead of backslash, we'll be using forward slash. Okay. Now, we'll just see with an example. Before that, now we said in Windows we are using backslash, and in Linux as well as OS X we are using forward slash. Now, if you want your program to work on all the operating system, then we have to write our Python script to handle both the cases. Okay. So to do this, we have a function that is called as OS path join function. So in this case, if you're passing string values to individual file as well as folder names in your path, this path dot join will return a string with file path with the correct separator. So if you're saying Windows, the separator will be backward slash. If you're saying Linux, then the separator will be a forward slash. So we'll just see what do they mean by this. So I'll just go to my interactive shell here, that is ideally. So so first of all, I'll write import OS, that is I'm importing a module that is OS, since I'm using OS path function. So here we are seeing the example for os dot path dot join. So for that purpose you have to import this module. Okay, so we'll use the example of this join, what they are saying. So you can see here, I'll give user slash bin. So what is the purpose of this OS part dot join is? So we said in Windows we are using backward slash, in Linux we are using forward slash. So if you want, so your Python script should be such a way that it should be able to accept or both the that is you want your script to execute in both the OSs, then you should be able to handle both the cases. So for that purpose you can use this os path dot join. So just see here, for this particular function, os path dot join, we are passing user as well as bin and spam. So these are nothing but the folders. So you can see here it is written this way, that is user slash bin slash spam. So these are nothing but the path, the folders you can say. And here you can see here, why this double slash is there, that is just for, that is your escaping the backslash. Okay, for that purpose you have used this double slash. So this example is telling you how you can use os path dot join function. So using this you can make, otherwise what you should do, if you are using backslash, then it is used only in windows. If you're using forward slash, it can be used only in linux. But if you're using this path join, you can make your script work both in linux as well as windows. So the meaning of this is, you are in a folder, or you're telling that we have a folder usr, and inside that you have one more folder called as bin. Inside that you have a folder called as spam. So this is the meaning of this particular example. Okay, so we'll see one more example for this os path join that is given over here. So is this particular path dot join function is helpful when we need to create strings for our file name. So here you can see, here we have given icon.text, detail.csv and invite.docx, and we are passing the path here. So we'll just see the meaning of this. Some, I'll give some variable as file is equal to, and I'm passing the names of the file, that is icon.txt as my first file, and something test dot doc as my second file, and some invite.csv as my third file. Okay, now I'm using the for loop here. So for file, that is the file name, in which variable, in files. So for loop here, the statement will be, at the end you have to write this colon, and you're writing print. What you have to print, os dot path dot join function. For that you're passing the path. That path is c colon and users something test, I'll write. And what I have to pass, I have to pass the file name. Okay, so what file name, whatever is there inside this list. Okay, so inside the list I'm telling icon.txt, three file names I'm passing. So those file names I'm attaching to this particular path, c colon users in the inside that test. Okay, so you can see here, just check out here. So the path we have given is c colon user test, and what we are saying here. So in the file, in this list, I have given three file names, account.txt test as well as invite, and we have used a for loop here. So what does this for loop do? It will take one file name at a time, and it will attach to this particular path what you have given. Okay, so you can see here, first time the file attached is account.txt, next file attached is test.doc, and the third file attached is invite.csv. So this is how you can attach the file names to a particular path. Okay, so that is about your path. Next, we'll go to current working directory. So I think about this current working directory you have also learnt in Unix programming. So every program that runs on your system that has a current working directory, or you can also call it as CWD. Okay, any file names or path that do not begin from the root folder. So we already spoke about the root, that is C colon, right? So anything that does not begin from the root folder are assumed to be working in a current directory. So anything that is not beginning with the root means that is in the current working directory, whichever folder you are there or directory you are there currently, that is called as your current working directory. So we can get the current working directory as a string by using this function os dot get CWD. That CWD is nothing but current working directory. So we'll just see with the example. So to change the directory, you can use chdir. Okay. So we'll go with an example. So first of all, we have to write import OS. Okay. Now OS dot first of all, I want to get the directory in which I'm working right now. Okay, so that is my current working directory. So you can see my current working directory, that is this IDLE which I'm using now, that is in this particular path, that is inside this Python. So I have programs, and under that I have Python, and within that I have Python 38, 32. So this is my current working directory. Okay. Now after this, now I will try to change. So to change the directory, I can write chdir, that is change directory, and I'll give some other directory as Windows, and I'll write system 32. So we know in Windows we have a folder called as system 32, right? So we'll just change the directory to that particular path. So now what we have done, chdir is nothing but it is changing the directory. My current directory was this, that is I was in this particular directory. Now I'm telling that I want to change the directory to this one, that is inside Windows I want to go to system 32. Now let us check whether the change directory has occurred or not. So for that again you have to give cwd, that is get cwd, that is get the current working directory. So we'll just see whether the change directory has worked. So you just see now our current working directory has been changed to Windows and system 32. Okay. So this is how you can use the current working directory as well as change the directory. So to get the current working directory, you have to give get cwd, that is nothing but you'll be getting the current working directory. You want to change the current working directory, then you can give os.chdir, that is nothing but change the current working directory. So once you have changed, you have to check whether the change has happened or not. So to check whether change has happened or not, again you have to give get cwd. So you can see there the directory has been changed to whatever you have passed. Okay, so that is one example. Other than this, suppose you are giving a directory that is not present. Okay, so we will try to change the directory to something like c colon, and this does not exist. Some folder name called as this does not exist, or some directory name like this. So you can see in that case it is going to display a error. Okay, so Python will display an error if you're trying to change to a directory that does not exist. So you can see like this error will be displayed. So this is about your change working directory as well as get the current working directory. So get cwd is to get the current working directory, chdir is to change the directory, and one more point you have to tell, if you're changing to the directory that is not present, in that case you'll be getting a error. Okay, next we'll go to absolute and relative path. So absolute and relative path again you are learning in your Unix also. So what is the difference between this absolute and relative path? So in the beginning we spoke about path. So path is nothing but it is telling you the location where your particular file is present. So this path can be either. So that is two ways how you can specify the file path is. The first one is absolute path, and the next one is called as relative path. So absolute path which always begins with the root. So when your path name begins from the root, then you're calling it as an absolute path. whereas relative path, which is relative to the program's current working directory. So relative means currently you're in which directory, from there you're giving the path, whereas absolute path, when you say, always you'll be beginning from the root directory. So that's the difference between two. So the same concept is there in your Unix also, that is about relative as well as absolute. So always remember, when you say absolute, it always begins from the root, and when you say relative, it begins from the current working directory. Okay, so you can see here, along with that, you are also having dot and double dots, all those things. These are not the real folder, but special names that can be used in your path. So whenever you have given single dot for a folder, that is nothing but it is representing this directory. Whereas when you say two dots, it is saying that it is representing the parent directory. So just see the example here. Now I have, see in this particular figure that is given to you, your current working directory is bacon. Okay, inside bacon you have fizz, so you can give it as dot, and you have given backslash fizz. So what is the meaning of this? In this directory, from this directory, that is your current directory, within that you have fizz. Okay, but same thing, take another example, that is for x. You have a directory x here, so in this case you have given double dot. Double dot means, just see here, where is this x present? It is present inside C drive, right? So in this case, this is called as a parent directory. So remember, if you're given single dot, it means that is this directory, that is whichever is a current working directory, from there. But whereas when you're given double dot, it is representing the parent directory. So that is what the example says. Similarly, if you're saying, just see here, dot fizz slash spam. So fizz is inside which directory? Inside the current working directory. So from the current working directory, go to the folder fizz and then go to the folder spam. But same thing if you're telling this spam.txt, or okay, this spam.txt. So where is this spam.txt? This is present inside the parent. It is not present inside bacon, right? It's not present inside bacon, but it is present inside the parent directory. So for that purpose, you have written two dots. Okay. So the advantage of using all this, you can see here, advantage of using the folders. See here, you have spam.txt over here inside bacon. Inside X also you have spam.txt. Inside the parent directory also you have spam.txt. So that is one advantage. You can have file names which are that is files with similar names, but there won't be a problem because they are stored in different folders. Okay, so under absolute and relative, what you have to say, relative path is nothing but that is from the current working directory. You're taking current working directory as a reference, and from there you're giving. But whereas absolute, it is from the root folder. Okay, and when you're speaking about relative path, one more point you have to tell about single dot and double dot. Single dot, whenever you're referencing from the current working directory, that is from, or else you can also say from this directory, then you're using a single dot. But whereas when you're speaking about the parent directory, then you're referencing it as double dot. Okay, you have to write this example diagram and the example. At least one example, in which one example you're showing for single dot, that is from the current working directory, and one example wherein you're showing double dot, which is representing from the parent directory. Okay, so that's about your relative as well as absolute path. Next one, we'll go to another function, that is make directory. Okay, so your program can create new folders, or in other way you can say your program can create new directories by using the function os dot make directory function. Okay, so here diagram is given to you, which is telling you inside the root you have a folder called as delicious, and inside that you have a folder called as wallet. Inside that, sorry, walnut. and inside that you have a folder called as waffle. Okay, so how you can create this directories by using os make directory, we'll just see with an example. So first of all you have to write import os. Okay, next os dot make dirs, that is make directory. What directory you have to make, that is given to you. So you are going to C colon, and you have a folder called as delicious, and inside that you have a folder called as walnut, and inside that you have a folder called as waffles. Okay, so this is a folder or the directory what you're going to give, os dot make directory, where you want to create the directory inside the root folder, and within that delicious, and within that you have walnut. So you have to escape here, escape your writing double slash, even here you have to escape, then you put a closing bracket. So we'll just see here. So you can see this is how you have to create the new folder. So when you give like this, the folders will be created. Okay, that is about your make directory. Next one you have os.path module. So os.path module will contain many functions that are related to file names as well as file path. So we already saw one example, that is os.path join, right? So if you are using that path join in your program, then you have to include this os path module. Okay, so for that how you are doing, you are simply writing as import os. Whenever you're doing any operation related to file or file name, then you require to include this os path module. Okay, under this, the first thing what we are going to see is handling absolute as well as relative path. So we already saw what is an absolute path, what is a relative path, right? So how you can handle this? So os path module will provide functions for returning the absolute path of a relative path. So what is absolute and relative? So you saw here, right? Absolute always begins from the root, whereas relative with respect to the current directory. Okay, so the same thing we are going to see here. So OS path module has some functions for returning the absolute path of a relative path. So relative path means from the current working directory. Absolute path means from the root. Okay. So you are trying to get the absolute path, that is from the root of a relative path. So currently you are having the relative path, that relative path's absolute path you want. So for that you have some functions, and along with that os path module also has some function to check whether the given path is an absolute path or not. So we are going to see all those functions. So the first function in this case is os dot path dot absolute path. For this, the parameter what you're passing is a path. So this particular function will return a string of the absolute path of the argument. So whatever path you have passed here, okay, so that particular path's absolute string it will return. We'll see what is the meaning of that. Uh, Along with that, the next function what you're going to see is absolute. So this particular, whenever you say is, the return type will be either in terms of true or false. It will return true if the argument is the absolute path. So you're checking whether the path you have passed here, whether it is an absolute path or not. Okay, so it is going to return true if the argument is an absolute path, otherwise it is going to return false. And the third method what you're going to see is os path dot relative path, wherein you're passing two parameters, that is path as well as start. So this particular function will return a string of the relative path from the start path to the current, from the starting till the current path. If the start is not provided, the current working directory is used as a starting path. So we'll see what is the meaning of all this with an example. So here again you have to import OS. Okay. So OS dot path, and you are passing some absolute path. So absolute path is ABS path, and so you can see what is the absolute path here. That is Windows slash 32. Okay. So that is nothing but your absolute path, which returns a string of the absolute path of the argument. So this particular argument, that is dot, whatever you have passed, so that's absolute path will be written. And the next thing is os dot path. We are passing a folder name called as scripts. Okay. So what does ABS path do? It is going to return the string of the absolute path of the argument. Okay. So now current argument is the folder, that is scripts. So you can see it is going to return you the string of the absolute path of the argument here. So you can see here. So this particular script will be present in C colon Windows System 32 and then scripts. Next one you're going to check is os dot path. You're going to check whether is absolute. Whether is absolute path. So in this case, this is not an absolute path, so it is going to return a false value. Similarly, the next function what you're going to use, again will pass os path dot abs path. Okay. So in this case, it is going to return you a true value since you're passing the absolute path here. Okay. So since you're passing the absolute path as a parameter for this particular function, that is apps. So in that case, it is written a true value. Other than this, the next function what you have is relative. So we'll see one example for this. So next function we are going to see is os.path, that is relative path, wherein you're passing two parameters. That is, first parameter is the path and second parameter is the start. So this particular function is going to return a string of the relative path from the start. So here, which is your start, that is C colon. Okay. Start from C colon till this is your path. This is the start and this is the path. So from the start till the path, it is going to give you the relative path. So in this case, it is just the windows. Okay. So here you can see here single dot, that is representing the working directory. Okay, here in this case. So similarly, you can also check the current working directory. If you want to check over here, you can give it this way. So in this case, which is the current working directory, that is Windows as well as System 32. This is because you had changed the directory in the beginning. Here you had given change directory. Currently, initially you were in this Python, but since you gave change directory, so this is your current working directory. Okay. Next, other than this, you also have some other functions called as directory name. Again, you're passing the path there. In this case, directory name, what does it do is it will return you a string of everything that comes before the last slash. So before the last slash, so just see this example. You have Windows, C colon Windows System 32, and inside System 32 you have a file called as cal.exe. So directory name, what does it do is it is going to return you everything which is before the last backslash. Okay. Whereas the next one you have is base name. So what does base name? Base name is going to return you after the last backslash whatever you have, that particular data will be returned. That is everything that comes after the last slash in the path argument, that is nothing but the result that is returned by the base name. Okay. So we'll see with an example. So I'll give a path. I'll give a path as C colon slash Windows slash system 32 slash dot exe. So this is a path what I have given. Now in this path I want to retrieve just the base name. I want to retrieve just the base name of this particular path. So my path is Windows 32 and calc.exe. So in this, I want to retrieve just the base name. So just see. So the base name, when you say, it is going to return only this particular thing that is there after the last slash. Same thing if I'm giving os dot instead of base name, I will give path dot directory name, and again I'm passing the same path. In this case you can see whatever is there before the last slash, that particular data is written. So that is about your base as well as directory name. So just remember this diagram, then it will be easy to recall things. Directory means before the last slash whatever is there. Base name means after the last slash whatever is there, that will be displayed. Okay. So if we need the paths directory name and base name together, then we can use another function that is called as split. Okay. So we'll see with an example. So we saw about base name, we saw about directory name. So when you say base name, only whatever is there after the last slash will be displayed. If you want directory name, then before the last slash whatever is there. Now if you want both, okay, if you want both, just give the same path. So in this case, just see, I have the base name, sorry, in this case split function. So for the split function I have passed the same path. So what is our path? Our path is this. Inside C colon I have Windows, then I have system 32, and I have cal.exe. So we have used the split function and we have passed this parameter path as a parameter. So what does the split do is this is going to give you both the base name as well as a directory name. Okay. So here Windows 32 is a directory name and cal.exe is nothing but your base name. So that is about your directory name, base name as well as split function. So in this particular subject you have lot of functions to remember. So if for every module what are the different functions you're going to see, if you make a note of it, then it'll be easy for you to write in the examination. Otherwise a lot of functions, there are possibility of you getting confused. So next we'll go to the next one, that is finding the file size as well as folder contents. So we saw the ways of handling the file path. Now you might come across some situation where you want to know what is the size or how much of data or file size of a particular file you want to know. In such cases, for this purpose also, we have some functions that is present in OS path module. Okay, so OS path module provide function for finding the size of a file in terms of number of bytes, and the files as well as folders given inside, which is present in a given folder. So to do that, you have functions, that is os path dot get size, and again you're passing some path. So this particular function will return the size in terms of number of bytes of the file in the given path. So we'll just see with an example for this. So let us keep the path. Okay, so I'll write okay, I'll write os followed by path dot I want to get the size. I want to get the size of the particular path, c colon slash windows slash system 32, and inside that I'll have a folder called as calc.exe. I want to know the size of this particular file. Okay, so I can just use the function called as get size. So you can see here you got an answer here. So these answer is nothing but returned in terms of number of bytes. So this particular file, how many number of bytes it will occupy? That is 22,112 bytes. Okay. Similarly, the next function what you have is list directory. So this will return the list of file names, strings for each of the file in the given path argument. So we'll just see the difference between the two. First one gave you the size of the particular file path, whatever you have passed in that particular path, what file you have, that size it returned. Now you want to know the list of files that are present in your path. So for that purpose, you can use list dir. Okay, you can use list dir, and you can will write the path as c colon slash windows, and inside that we have system 32. In this particular path, how many directories you have, how many folders you have, all those will be listed. Okay, so in this case, so you can see here all these files. It's very lengthy thing. It will be displayed. Okay. So this is nothing, the difference between get size as well as list directory. List directory is going to list all the files that is present in your path, whatever you have passed. Okay. So we can see that cal.exe program in our my computer gave you the file size, that is 22,112, right? It gave you the file size as 26,112. So, and also we saw when you give the path as Windows System 32, all these files we saw, which was returned by list.directory. So these were the things. Now we'll try to so we'll write a small code which is going to find the total size of all the files in the directory. Okay, so in this we are using both the functions, that is get size as well as list directory together. Okay, so I'll just scroll this off. So all these files are present in your system 32, Windows system 32. Okay, so next we'll just see a small code in which you're trying to find the size of all the files that are present in the path whatever you have given. Okay, so I'll use a variable called as total size. I'll just write as t size. I will initialize it to 0. Okay, and now we will use the for loop for file name in os dot list directory. So here you are passing the directory of you're passing the path, okay, of from where you want to find the in which the list of files are there. So all those files total size you want to know. So this is a path what you're passing. So t size is equal to t size plus. Now I am using the function get size. So get size, what does it do? It is going to get the size of a particular file, right? So here, what is our code we are writing? We are trying to find the total size of all the files that are present in this particular path. Okay. So we'll use os.path.join. So path.join. What does will okay. So we have passed the file name, and now we'll write we want to print the total size of this. Okay, so we want to print t size. Just close this. So we are using a variable. So before that, I'll just write import os. Then we are using a variable called as t size, which will initialize to 0. Then we'll be using a for loop for the variable file name in os dot list dir, and here we'll pass the path. So we'll give the path as Windows and system 32. So this is a path what you have passed, and we have to calculate the total size, right? So t size is equal to t size plus os dot path dot get size. We need to get the size of each of the file that is present in the given path. Okay, dot join, and here the path is colon slash Windows system 32 comma file name. So file name is done. Now we want to print. So I doubt whether we get the result here. Okay, so we got the answer here. So in the previous example, what you saw was we got the size of we gave Windows 32, and within that we gave cal.exe. So that particular thing gave you the size of that file. Now in this case, you can see here these many number of bytes. So this is nothing but the total size of all the files that are present in this particular path. Okay, so in the examination they can ask you write the code snippet to show or to find the size, total size of all the file in a given path. So this is how you can write. Okay, simple logic you're using a for loop, you're passing the parameter. So in the parameter, that is, you're passing the path to this list dir. So list dir is nothing but that is going to give you all the directories that are present in this particular path, and that you're passing, and you're going to find the get size. So get size is nothing but it is going to give you the size of the file. So here size of each file, and the list directory is telling you all the files present in your this path. So you're going to go on adding this. Total size is nothing but it will be having the size of each of the files. So you're using the for loop. So here file name dot in os.list directory means what does it do? It is going to repeat for all the files that are present in this path. Okay, so there you got this result as these many number of bytes. Next, we'll go to the next one, that is checking path validity. So many Python functions will crash with an error if we supply them a path that is not present. So we already saw in an example in the beginning wherein you're giving a path, that path is not present. So we gave a path as c colon and a folder name as does not exist. So when that particular folder is not there, then we came out of the case, right, with an error statement. So that thing happens. So OS path module provide us some functions to check whether the given path is present or not, or whether the given path exists or not. Okay. So for that, we are going to see the different functions here. So first one, we will begin with path exist. So this particular function, what does it do? It is going to return true if the file or the folder referred to in the argument exists. Otherwise, it is going to return a false value. Okay. So we'll just give with an example. So I'll give os.path, and the function is exist, right? And the path I'll give c colon slash windows. So if that path, if the path what you have given or the argument whatever you have passed, if it exists, it is going to return a true value. So in this case, it is going to return a true value. Same thing, os dot path dot exist. I have given something as c colon, something like this. So in this case, this folder is not there. So for that purpose, it is going to return you a false value. Similarly, there are other functions like os.path.isdir. So isdir, again, it is going to return the result either in terms of true or false. Okay. So whatever path you are passing as the parameter for this particular function, if that path is present or exists, then it is going to return a true value. Otherwise, it is going to return a false value. So in this case, you will pass something like what's it called? So it is returning a true value. Similarly, something which is not there means it will return a false. Okay. Similarly, the next example, that is next function what you have is file. Okay, is file, and again you're going to pass some parameter path here. So c colon, same thing, I'll pass windows slash system 32. Now system 32, this is a path what you have passed for the function is file. So this is file is there, so it will return the value, boolean value. So if the path argument is present or exists, then it is going to return a true value. In this case, if this particular file is not present in this particular path, then it is going to return a false value. Okay, if it is there, it is going to return a true value. Otherwise, it is going to return a false value. Similarly, you can also check uh, whether the additional volume. Now in my system, if I'm saying now I have C drive and D drive, other than that, if I'm trying to check for something new one, okay, I'm trying to check whether a drive G is there, whether drive G is there. So in my system, I have only C and D. I'm checking for G. So in this case, it is not there, so it is returning false. So these are the different functions which can be used for checking the path validity. That is exist, then file and directory. Okay. So exist, we saw one more in which you are checking for the this one, that is if whether you're connected DVD drive or a USB drive, whether it is existing or not. Then the next one, that is file reading and writing process. So once we know how to work with the folders as well as relative path, next we can go on with the process of writing as well as reading the files. So there are three steps for reading as well as writing files in Python. The first one is open function. So this is an example that is given to you, that is about cal.exe. So this is a binary file that is present. So similarly, you can have text file also. This is just a binary file that is shown to you in your textbook. Okay. So the steps for reading or writing files in Python are: first of all, you have to call the open function to return a file object. So so you can see opening a file with the open function. So this is an example in your Windows. So you're giving open followed by the path you're given. So your home folder is your current working directory, and inside that hello.txt. So this hello.txt you're going to create using your notepad. Okay, using your notepad you create hello.txt in a particular path. So notepad you can open, and inside this you type something and you're going to save this. So I will save it in my desktop as something test.txt. Okay, so I have created a notepad. I have written a data in that. Okay, so first one we are speaking, that is opening files with open function. So to open a file with the open function, we pass the string path here. So what is a string path we have passed here? C colon users the your current working directory, as well as here the name of the file is hello.txt. Okay, so this hello.txt we already created using the notepad. So inside that notepad we have written some data, that is some hello we have written. Okay, so this is how you can give the path to the open function. So here one more example is given to you, that is in case of OS X. So here we are in this particular textbook, we are only speaking about Windows. So in Windows we are using this backslash, but in OS X or in Linux we are going to use this forward slash. Okay, now the next thing is you want to read the contents of the file. Okay, so we already wrote created a file, that is using the open, that is the name of the file we gave as test.txt. Now how we are going to read the contents of the file? So to read the contents of the file, what you can do, you can give hello, that is the handler. So I'll just give. So first of all we'll open. Okay, so first of all we'll give hello file or something, file handler is equal to open, and I have to pass the path. Okay, I have to pass the path where my file is stored. So what was the file name? That was the file name was what we give? File name was test. Okay, so just go to property and see the path here. So this is a path. So I'll just copy paste and then come over here. So okay, so you can see here this is a path what we have to give. So I'll just remove this and we will give. So we gave desktop, and inside the desktop you have hello.txt. Now in my case the file name what we have given is test.txt. Okay, so you can see here it is hello.txt we gave as test.txt. So here this will be opened. Now you have to read that particular file. So to read that particular file, you're giving the file handler. Here it is hello file. You can see here it is hello file. Okay, that is a file handler. So what we have given, we will use it. So here the file handler we have given as file handler only. So the content, the content is nothing but the file handler dot read. So what happens now? You're using this file handler, you're going to read that particular file, and whatever contents of that file is there, that is stored in this hello content. Now you just type hello content to check the contents of the file. I gave it as hell content, sorry. So you can see here in my test.txt, I had given as hello all these characters. So what happened now? The content of this particular file has been read and it was stored in this file handler. Here I have given as hell content. So when I try to display that, all the contents of the file is been displayed. Similarly, you can also go for one more function, that is read lines. So in read lines, so once again, I'll open the same test dot. In that only we will do. I'll just open the same file test dot. I'll open the same file test dot txt and I'll write some statement wherein I'm using new line to go to the next line. Okay, and I'll just save this. So this document is saved. Now what are we going to see is we are seeing another function that is called as read lines. Okay, so in read lines what you can do, even the new line character, whenever you have a lengthy set of code, then you can go for read lines. Okay, so we'll just go here, some test I'll give. Test is equal to open, and what is the name we have given, test.txt. So I have to give the complete path. So my path is over here. Test is equal to open. Okay. Now I'll try to display the content. I'm opening it. Then after that, I'll give the function that is read lines. Okay. So read lines, what it will do is it is going to read even the new line character. So the complete this, you can see here, this was my file here wherein I wrote hello, good day, all those things. So the contents of the file has been displayed here. Along with that, the new line character is also considered. So this is one more function that is available to us for reading the content of the file. Okay, and the next one we are going to see is writing. Okay, so this is the last one, we'll just wind up after this. So writing to a file, so how you can write the details to the file. So again, this bacon file is nothing but your file handler. You're opening the file bacon.txt. So again, how you're going to create this bacon.txt? By using the notepad. You're opening this in write mode. Okay, so what is the data you're going to write? You're going to write it as hello world. So when you give like this, the size will be displayed here. Okay, similarly after this, so once you open a file, you need to close that particular file. So that is what you have done here. File handler followed by dot close. Again, so here what we are telling is, here we are telling about the different modes. You can either that is, in this case it is write, and next case what is happening is it is going to append the data. So you can see when you give append, what happens. So what is the data you want to append? You want to append the data that is bacon is not a vegetable. So for your bacon.txt file, you are writing hello world, and also you are adding the next data that is bacon is not a vegetable. So these are the two data what you are adding to your text file, that is bacon.txt. Okay, now you're opening. So after doing every operation, so in C language you have learned about files. So whenever you are opening a file, then later you have to close that particular file. So same concept even here you are using. After every operation you close it, because here you are doing the write, and once that operation is done, you're closing that particular file. Next again you are appending. After the append operation is done, again close it. Next, what you're going to do, again you're opening the file, but now you want to read the content of the file. So for that purpose, you have given the file handler dot read. So what does this do? This is going to read the content of the file. Okay, and after that you're closing. So whatever contents was there in this file bacon.txt, that is stored in this variable content. So what you're going to do, you're going to print the content. So when you're printing the content, you're going to have hello world followed by bacon is not a vegetable. So all this data will be there in your bacon.txt. Okay, so this is all about writing as well as reading as well as writing to a file. Okay, so for today's session we'll just wind up with this.